All right, let's get right into it. If you're an early-stage founder, hiring your first key people, it's not just another thing on your to-do list. It is a high-stakes mission. So today, we're unpacking a hardcore, no-fluff playbook for how you can actually source and hire those absolute top-tier engineers and account executives who are going to define your company's entire future.
You know, the reality is, you're fighting in an incredibly crowded market. Top talent, especially great engineers, they are just bombarded with outreach every single day. Their inbox is basically a war zone of boring, generic messages. And if you sound like everybody else, you're going to get ignored. Simple as that.
So, that leads to the big question, right? This isn't just about hiring. It's about winning. How do you, as a founder with way less money and almost zero brand recognition, convince some of the best people on the planet to bet their entire career on you and your idea? Well, this explainer right here, this is your battle plan.
We're going to walk through 5 critical stages. First, we'll talk about why the stakes are so high. Then, we'll get inside the mind of your ideal candidate. After that, we'll cover building your pipeline, running a killer outbound game plan, and finally, how to nail the interview and actually close the deal. So, let's start with the why, because honestly, this informs every single decision you're going to make after this. Getting these first hires right is completely non-negotiable. Look, these people aren't just employees filling a seat. They are the co-architects of your company. They're the ones who set the vibe for your culture. They establish the pace of how fast you move, and their talent becomes the benchmark, the bar that either attracts or repels everyone who comes next. They are literally the foundation of the entire thing. And this number, man, it just drives the point home. The data shows that your company's permanent culture is pretty much set in stone by your first 10 people, and it's solidified for good by the first 50. There are no do-overs here. The people you hire today are building the company that everyone else will join tomorrow.
Okay, so to win, you have to understand who you're talking to. You can't persuade someone if you don't even know what they want. It really all comes down to getting inside the candidate's mindset.
Now, this table breaks down the whole market perfectly. Candidates usually fall into one of 3 buckets. You got big tech, which offers stability but, less direct impact. Then you've got growth stage companies, which have some predictable upside but a lot more structure. And then there's your startup. You offer the highest risk for sure, but also the highest potential impact, the most ownership, and the biggest financial swing. You can't compete on stability, so don't even try. You have to win on ownership and impact.
And what that means is you have to lean into your strengths. You're not selling a job. You're selling a mission. You're selling a lottery ticket in the form of equity, a chance to solve these fascinating, deep problems, and an opportunity to work side by side with a small, brilliant team. Your job is to figure out which of these 4 angles resonates most with each person and really hone in on that. All right, you know who you're looking for, you know what your pitch is. Now, where do you actually find these people? Let's talk about building your talent pipeline. You've basically got 3 main channels. Referrals are pure gold. I mean, you're leveraging your own team's trusted network. Job boards can work, especially niche ones like YC's work at a startup, but they usually generate a lot of noise. And then there's the third one, the one that's most in your control, proactive sourcing. And that's where we're going to focus. And on that note about referrals, don't be cheap. Paying a $10,000 to $20,000 bonus might feel like a lot, but just compare that to a recruiting agency fee, which can easily be over $50,000 for one hire. A strong referral bonus is seriously one of the best investments you can make in your team.
Okay, let's get into the tactical core of this whole thing. This is where you go on the offensive. You need to start thinking of outbound sourcing not as an HR function, but as a full-on sales campaign for talent.
Let's be crystal clear on this. Sourcing is the act of hunting, not waiting. The best candidates are almost never applying for jobs because they already have one. You have to go find them. The same discipline, the same metrics, the same creativity you use for your outbound sales, you have to apply all of that to recruiting.
So for account executives, here's your checklist. You're looking for people who have sold to similar customers. You scan their LinkedIn profile for hard proof of success. I'm talking phrases like 140% quota attainment or President's Club winner. Fast promotions at the same company, that's a huge positive signal. And you want to prioritize people who've already shown they can handle the chaos of a Series A to C startup.
Now, for engineers, the game is a little different. You got to get creative. Leverage what makes you unique. Let's say you're from Germany. Search for other German engineers in the Bay Area. Look for people who contribute to open source projects. Prioritize candidates who've built their own side projects. That shows real initiative and an ownership mentality.
And don't be afraid to go into those niche Slack and Discord communities where they're actually hanging out.
One email is not enough. Just sending one and praying is not a strategy. You need a multi-step, multi-channel campaign. You start with a highly personalized email that sells the vision. Then you follow up with an automated email that adds a little more value. Then you hit them with a manual, personal message on LinkedIn, a different channel. And finally, you send one last personalized email. This persistence will dramatically increase your odds of getting a reply.
And here's what the numbers can actually look like. This is real data from a pre-Series A company. But the most important metric here isn't the reply rate, it's the interested rate. A reply can just be no thanks. What you need to track is the percentage of people who are actually open to having a conversation. That's your true top-of-funnel metric.
So here's your KPI. Your goal as a founder who's focused on hiring is to speak with at least 10 qualified candidates every single week. If you're not hitting that number, the diagnosis is simple. You are not sending enough high-quality outreach. You have to increase the volume.
Okay, so you've got them interested. They're on the hook. Now we move to the final stage, how you run the interview process and actually seal the deal without messing it up.
The process is going to look different for each role. For an AE, you need to see them in action with a mock demo. For an engineer, you'll want a practical case study, maybe building a small web app, and a much longer on-site for things like system design. But notice what's exactly the same for both. That very first step.
And this right here is maybe the single most important piece of advice in this entire explainer. Do not start the first call by grilling the candidate. You haven't earned that right yet. The first call is 100% about selling. Sell the mission, sell the vision, sell the team, get them excited. Only after they are sold do you have permission to start interviewing them.
And finally, when it's time to close, you have one massive weapon that big tech can't touch: speed. A big tech company can take months to make a hire. You can run your entire process from that first call to a signed offer in a week to 10 days. That speed is a huge competitive advantage. You have to use it.
So there you have it. The playbook is in your hands. Just remember, these first hires aren't just employees. They are the genetic code of your company. They will define absolutely everything that comes after. So the only question left is, who are you going to find?